My name is Carolyn Cowan and we are exploring shame. Shame comes generally from experiences of abuse and trauma. In my reality of being a trauma therapist, there are 9 types of abuse. And I think there's a different video about that. So there's a lot of long form content here as well as the shorts. So there's 9 types of abuse, and then there are 3 routes to trauma. And of course, a huge amount of the conversation at the moment is exploring trauma. Everybody's got trauma. And as I've said before, who doesn't have trauma? Trauma isn't really the conversation you want to be having. The conversation you want to be having is, what did your experiences do to you? How have you taken in shame? So if we start by looking at projected shame. So this video is exploring projected shame. I've said before that shame is a parasitic emotion that wants to self-replicate. And if you have shame, you will shame. Rule number 1. If you have shame, you are available to be shamed. Rule number 2. Rule number 3 is, if you have shame, you will shame. Now, at the moment, I'm making this all about you, as in how, when you think about if you have shame, you will shame. But if you think about how did you get shame, now, shame might have come from an action. Shame might have come from something that was completely unavoidable, like something as appalling as the death of a child or a neonatal death, that kind of thing. But shame can come from lots of different experiences. It can come from very abusive, emotionally and physically abusive, sexually abusive childhoods. It can also come from the sort of things that get said to you when you're a child. You're not wanted, you were a mistake, I wish I'd never had you, I wish I'd given you up for adoption, you should have been in foster care. And so all of that, I mean, that's a tiny, tiny example of all the different things that could be said. You're stupid, why aren't you as clever as your sister, why aren't you as clever as your brother, banana bonds, there's nothing between your ears. These repeated messages that come from parents, they can come from school friends, they can come from teachers, they can come from religious figures. There's so many different ways that shame can be projected onto you. Now, I've worked with people who are completely, as a psychotherapist, worked with people who are very robust and don't have shame. And that doesn't mean that they're shameless. It just means that they didn't take the projected shame. And actually, if you think about long-term recovery, as you work on your shame, part of your skill set will be being able to think, that is shame being projected on me, and I don't want that. I don't agree with that. And also part of your recovery process is learning to be able to go, that feels really uncomfortable, but I don't need to accept that shame. So there's a very interesting thing there that comes into the book about how you do not allow the other person to put shame on you. That's quite an adult behavior. So in the long run, your goal in your recovery from shame is to be able to think, okay, this person has said this, it hurt, I don't like it, but I don't have to react, I don't have to take it. I can consider my position and I can think, that was uncomfortable, that hurts. Gosh, the feeling of shame is fascinating. But actually, that's not my shame. And so you don't take it. And if you do feel really, really uncomfortable, there's a whole load of videos on here about things that you can do to release that. So let's imagine somebody today, tomorrow, this week, they project shame onto you. They say something awful. You think, that made me uncomfortable for a couple of days. Of course, a shame projection can tip you into a shame spiral, and it can last for weeks if you don't know how to catch it. If you haven't noticed that you are reacting internally and externally to having had projected shame put on you. So of course, one of the first things, if you notice somebody has said something that makes you feel really uncomfortable, that is unkind, that is not worthy or valid to have said, you can obviously reflect, is it true? But you can notice, I can feel that in my body. I don't like that. I'm not going to get angry. I'm not going to react. I'm going to think about what they've said. But equally, you can stretch out the feelings. So I'm always showing this fantastic movement that slowly goes into the body and releases the system and says, okay, it's all right, little one, little child part. It's okay, I can reset myself. There's lots of different movements, but that already I can come back and feel, ooh, that feels good. So projected shame, you might have projected shame onto someone else. You might have, I don't know, made a comment about, oh God, you put on weight, maybe to one of your kids or to your partner. And then you can think, ooh, that wasn't very kind, actually. And you might notice that they shut down, they withdraw, they go and they eat, because the shame in themselves, and if it's you that's been shamed, means you've got to try, if eating, overeating, binging, sugar, carbohydrates, if that's what you do when you feel shame, you might notice that actually you've triggered them. And if you think about, if you have body issues, and a huge number of people do, and there is not a good conversation out there happening about how to deal with body issues, but when you're kicked into compare and despair, or your partner, somebody that you love, or your kids or whatever have said something to you about your body, if you do the same, you can reflect on, oh, I didn't put that very well, did I? And therefore you can go to the other person, because what happens, let's imagine, hypothetically, we'll use food as an example, eating, body. Let's imagine you've said, oh, you've put on some weight. Gosh, look at you, those don't look very good. You look fat. You might think, I notice now what I've done is I've upset them. We'll get into the I've upset them and what that person does later in a different form of shame video. But you could think, I could have said that differently. So therefore, what you've actually done is, if they have become upset, hurt, withdrawn, they're sulking, they're angry, they're upset, they're in tears, they're overeating, or they've gone on to some kind of fasting thing, or they've hit their own, any of which could be their fuck it button, you could think, that wasn't kind, was it? I could have done that differently. And what you've done is you've broken the interpersonal bridge. Now, in psychotherapeutic terms, if you have a lovely, intimate, loving, affectionate relationship with another person, you have a bridge between you. It's not a visible bridge, but it's an energetic bridge. But the moment that you shame or hurt or abandon or choose to somehow inflict shame on another person, inadvertently sometimes, but sometimes consciously, or it may be how you behave, which is that you grew up being shamed a lot, therefore it's natural to do so. But the moment that that other person has taken that projected shame into themselves, they then are weaponized into attack, protect, defend. And you have broken this magical bridge. And so they withdraw. They don't look at you, because the affect, the way that shame shows itself is they look away, they're silent, they're not available. They might attack verbally or physically, unfortunately. They might turn on themselves, they might numb out by watching videos or playing killing computer games, or just sitting there scrolling for hours. And what they're doing is they're festering their resentments. They're sort of, if you think about a resentment, so you have done something inadvertently or consciously that has created shame in the other, you've projected shame. And so now they are free to literally, if you think about resentments, like a really pussy boil, you know when a boil gets red and swollen, and what they're doing is they're kind of licking it, they're stroking it, they're pressing it, and they're thinking about what you've said. They're turning it in on themselves, or they're building up a case against you, or they are scared, and then they fetishize. Do you remember the videos about how you fetishize your behavior? They will press the fuck it button and they will act out in ways that harm themselves or potentially harm you. So you've broken the interpersonal bridge. You could go to them and you could say, I can't put my hand directly on my heart because I have this little furry mole here that picks up a good recording of my voice, but you could You could say, so notice this action. If the bridge is broken, think of it like a drawbridge with a moat around a castle. And what's happened is that the projected shame that you have put on the other, at the moment I'm making it that you've done it, makes both of the drawbridges come up. And so now it's battleground. The bridge is broken. And so it's up to you. If you notice that you want to change what happened, you put your hand out. I'm really sorry. I am really sorry. I said that in such a thoughtless way. I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. I know I hurt you and I didn't mean to. Now that is a brave act. Now, of course, they can turn around to you and they can say, you always do that. You're this, you're that. They can. And then you've got a loop. You've got a loop that started. And then, of course, you're free to sulk, get angry, walk away, abandon them, and then a whole load more wounding comes in. But it is about being able to say, I was cruel and I was mean and I am sorry. I am sorry. I didn't mean it. And I am sorry. I am really sorry. Obviously, it's something I work with and I can say it with genuine feeling. Can you? Or are you sulking and too proud? Are you ashamed of your behavior, which means that you do not take that step that says, that was cruel and I shouldn't have done that, and I am sorry. So projected shame is where shame is passing itself on. Shame is a parasitic emotion that wants to replicate. So notice where you are projecting shame. And notice also where shame is projected onto you, because all of the behaviors that I ascribe to the other may well be what you do. And then when they come and potentially say, I am sorry, that was unfair, I didn't mean it. What do you do? Do you accept? Because of course, if you have shame, it's a dark, sticky, creeping, grubby, thick, oily emotion. And it's really hard to come out of feeling shame. You actually have to make an effort to be able to go, yeah, I went into a shame spiral and I feel really uncomfortable. Can we do something? Can we do something together? Can we go for a walk? Could we have a hug and just hug until we relax together? It's about allowing the bridge to be remade. And if you're the one who has had shame projected on you, obviously some instances are not appropriate. You can't sort of say to your boss, could we have a hug, please? Well, maybe you can, but it's probably highly likely not. But it's about noticing, where do you turn away, sulk, attack and reject to protect, or refuse the apology, or refuse to make the apology. It's a lot to think about. I know it's a lot to think about, and it's very easily opened up in the book, The Path Out of Hell. So that is projected shame.